Explicit content is found in this episode, so listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to True Crime Cases. I'm your host, Lainey. The phrase, "you can't have your cake and eat it too," is an idiom that dates back several centuries. Its origins can be traced to the 16th century, although the exact phrase has evolved over time. Originally, the phrase appeared in different forms, such as, "you can't eat your cake and have it," or "you can't have your cake and eat it." The basic meaning has always been the same. Once you consume or use something, you no longer have it to show off to others, removing the possibility of having everything exactly as one wants. Over time, the phrase has become a common expression in the English language, used to convey the idea that one cannot have two or more conflicting things at the same time. It can be used ungenerously, such as when a celebrity complains about the way they've been spoken about on social media. You'll often hear, "Well, she can't have her cake and eat it too," meaning she can't be famous and have her privacy. In everyday usage, though, you're more likely to hear this idiom when talking about affairs and having multiple partners on the side. In this case, when someone says, "Well, they can't have their cake and eat it too," they might mean someone can't expect to keep a marriage and happy family together while also seeing other people on the side. In this episode, we'll discuss Ezra McCandless, who not only wanted an extra piece of cake, but wanted 2 extra pieces, or maybe even a whole extra cake, if she had managed to get her way. The greed resulted in a twisted story of elaborate lies, name changes, and obsession, and its final chapter ultimately resulted in death. Sit back and try your best to relax as we dive into the case of Alex Woodworth, Jason Mengel, and John Hanson, 3 men who formed an unknowing quadrangle, caught up in the web of lies formed by master manipulator Ezra McCandless. Okay. On to the show. On October 6, 1997, a baby girl was born to her mother, Rosalina Gunnelson, in Stanley, Wisconsin. This new arrival was named Monica Kay, although we'll know her as different names over the years. Monica's biological father was not involved in her life, which may have been for the best if he was anywhere near as young as Rosalina, who was only 14 years old when she gave birth. Therefore, little Monica was cared for throughout her adolescent years by her mother, who was really still just a child herself, and her grandparents. Monica's mother met and married her partner, Joe Shane Carlin, when Monica was 4 years old. Joe Shane quickly adopted Monica and she became known as Monica Carlin. Although the relationship only lasted 8 years as Rosalina and Joe Shane divorced when Monica was 12, Monica continued to have a close relationship with her adoptive father. During her years at Stanley Boyd High School in her hometown of Stanley, Monica experimented with calling herself by different names, as well as changing her pronouns to see what fit. It seems like this worked out for her, as once she graduated high school and turned 18, Monica officially changed her name to Ezra McCandless. She picked this name because she felt that Ezra was a better fit for her personality than the name Monica. Ezra decided on the last name McCandless in honor of free spirit Chris McCandless, whose short and nomadic life was memorialized in the book and movie Into the Wild. As far as we can tell, Ezra eventually settled on she/her pronouns, so that is what we will continue to refer to her by. A warning if you look further into this case online. Some individuals will use transphobic language when speaking out about her. These individuals, in my opinion, can kick rocks. Ezra began attending the University of Wisconsin at Madison soon after high school, but the pursuit of academia wasn't sitting right with her. She soon dropped out of college and moved from her hometown of Stanley to Eau Claire, still in Wisconsin, to begin the new life that she envisioned living as Ezra. And it looked like her new life living with her new name was getting off to a good start when, while living in Eau Claire, Ezra met Jason Mengel, a 33-year-old National Guard medic. We don't know much about Jason's life before he met Ezra, but for all intents and purposes, he was totally normal, perfectly respectful, one with an interest in home improvements as well as his time in the National Guard Reserves. Despite the wide age gap between them, 19-year-old Ezra was smitten with Jason, and the two began an intense relationship. The couple quickly decided to move in together, and from the outside, they seemed to be living in blissful happiness. Shortly after the couple decided to live together in early fall 2017, Ezra found out that she was pregnant with Jason's child. Although she was in love with Jason, the pregnancy absolutely terrified Ezra. She didn't want to have a child, and she felt that she could not continue to be the wild, spontaneous girl that she enjoyed being so much if she was tied down by the duties of being a parent. Without discussing it with Jason, Ezra made the decision to abort the pregnancy and drove to Minneapolis for the procedure. This was ultimately her decision to make, of course, but it isn't clear how Jason felt about it. Towards the end of 2017, Ezra confided in Jason that one of his best friends, John Hansen, had sexually assaulted her. Jason went to the Eau Claire Police Department to report the claim, although Ezra herself was reluctant to do so. Investigators looked into the accusations, but no charges were filed against John, which, it turns out, is just as well, considering that text messages later discovered on Ezra's phone indicated the sexual encounter was entirely consensual. This is largely speculation, but it seems as though Ezra may have fabricated the assault claim purely to alienate Jason from his friends, a common tactic for abusers. Still, Ezra's attempts at controlling Jason didn't stop him from continuing to socialize and make new friends. When Jason met a barista named Alex Woodworth at a local coffee shop he was a frequent customer at, the two quickly got to know each other and became good friends. Jason then introduced Alex to his partner Ezra. He said that he did this because he knew that Ezra was going through emotional things at the time, and because Alex was a really good friend. Jason knew that the two had very similar experiences and viewpoints. He believed that Alex had some things in his life that Jason figured Ezra could help with, and that vice versa, Alex could help Ezra with the things in her life. So Jason introduced Ezra to Alex, and they also hit it off. It looked like the start of a beautiful new friendship group for all three of them. Alex was 24 years old and lived in Eau Claire. He was the oldest of 4 children, and he enjoyed being a big brother to his siblings. According to his parents, John and Kimberly Woodworth, Alex cherished his time with his family and friends, reading and helping people in any way he could. What Jason didn't realize was that the more time Alex and Ezra spent together, the more their friendship was secretly evolving into an intense, intimate relationship, emotionally and physically. In mid-February 2018, while Jason was gone on 2 weeks of National Guard duty, Ezra moved back to her mother's house in Stanley, perhaps not feeling totally safe living alone in an unfamiliar town. When Jason returned from duty, he met up with Ezra at hotels so they could have some privacy. During one of the hotel stays, Jason made a discovery that stopped him in his tracks. He read messages on Ezra's phone and found out about her secret relationship with Alex, as well as the affair she carried out with John Hansen. You know, the man she accused of sexual assault only a few months earlier. Ezra wasn't able to talk herself out of the situation with such clear evidence of her infidelity, and this led to Jason confronting both Alex and John during a very public argument at a coffee shop. This understandably caused a deep fracture in Ezra and Jason's relationship. Rather than taking responsibility for her own actions, however, Ezra blamed Alex for the strain in her relationship with Jason, whom she claimed to be in love with. On February 24, 2018, Ezra sent Alex a text that told him not to talk to her ever again. Ezra had also written journals expressing how upset she was at having betrayed Jason and wanted him to read them. She originally wanted to meet Jason and deliver the journals in person, but Jason didn't want to see her and told her to just mail them to him instead. On March 22, 2018, Ezra returned to Eau Claire to surprise Jason. This seemed like an odd decision, given that the two weren't officially back together, though they were still in frequent communication. In fact, they had messaged each other over 600 times the previous night. She met Jason at the coffee shop he frequented, and Jason claimed that Ezra had been emotionally down leading up to this meeting, but she told him that day that she had planned to take her life back. She was going to be Ezra again. Ezra also told Jason that she wanted to show Alex some of her writings, since Alex was in graduate school to become a professor of philosophy. She even intended to do so that same day, and would be heading to Alex's home since he wasn't at work that day. At the same time, she allegedly planned to speak with Alex to have him admit that their affair was a mistake, which she believed would help her get Jason back. But Ezra wasn't acting like her usual self, even given how down she had been feeling recently, and Jason noticed. He found her behavior suspicious and developed a bad feeling in his gut, like something was going to happen and it wasn't going to be anything good. He listened to that gut feeling and followed Ezra to Alex's house on his bicycle, but didn't attempt to approach the home. Instead, Jason stood outside of the house for a while, trying to gather the courage to confront the two. About what, he wasn't sure, but felt he needed to listen to his instincts. A passerby ended up calling the Eau Claire Police Department after seeing Jason pacing suspiciously outside of Alex's house for nearly 45 minutes. A police officer soon arrived to investigate the report, quickly followed by another responding officer. One officer approached the house and spoke with Alex, another officer spoke with Jason, and Ezra waited in the driver's seat of her own car. Jason told the officer that he was concerned about Ezra because, "She gave me a vibe today, man. I don't know. It doesn't feel right. Something feels wrong." The officers decided that wasn't a good enough reason to look into the situation further. Everything seemed normal between the three, and the officers left the house. Once the officers vacated the premises, Jason also left Ezra and Alex and returned to the coffee shop. According to Ezra, not long after the officers and Jason left, she and Alex left the house in Ezra's car. She was driving, and apparently, the two had decided to go to a public place to talk about the nature of their relationship so that everything was out in the open, literally and figuratively. Eventually, somehow, Alex would end up in the driver's seat. Just 3 hours after officers from the Eau Claire Police Department left Alex's house, the Dunn County Sheriff's Office received a call of its own. Don Sipple, a local cattle farmer, called police at around 4:15 p.m. to report that a young woman had walked up to his house in the town of Springbrook, Wisconsin. The woman was bloody, barefoot, and muddy. She appeared to be terrified, and Don knew she needed more help than he could offer. A Dunn County deputy quickly responded to the scene with a Wisconsin state trooper. At the time, the woman was not able to provide her name and address, but she was later identified as Ezra McCandless. The deputy noticed that Ezra's hair was disheveled and there was blood around her mouth as well as on her knuckles, left arm, and upper right thigh, which was visible through a hole in her pants. She appeared to be very upset and crying as her voice was wavering and she was shaking. But the deputy said he didn't actually see any visible tears fall. Ezra didn't provide her own details when asked by the trooper, but she did manage to give the name of Jason Mangle of Eau Claire as someone to contact on her behalf. The Dunn County deputy reached out to the Eau Claire Police Department for help in finding Jason. An Eau Claire police officer was able to inform him that earlier that same day, at around 12:30 p.m., police had made contact with Ezra, Jason, and Alex at Alex's home in Eau Claire. Ezra was taken by ambulance to the Mayo Clinic Health System in Eau Claire, followed by a Dunn County deputy. At the hospital, the deputy noticed the word boy cut into Ezra's left arm, and when questioned, she had a bizarre explanation for why it was there. Ezra claimed that Alex attacked her in retaliation after she stopped identifying as a male which was an identity that she said Alex preferred. Ezra told the officer that in high school she had questioned her gender and that she had changed her name to Ezra McCandless from Monica Carlin in 2015. Ezra told the detective that Alex had picked up on that and he used to call me like boy a lot and stuff like that, and I was just kinda like, I don't really identify that way anymore. Ezra claimed this is what prompted Alex to allegedly carve the word boy in her arm. The doctor who examined Ezra at the hospital noted that the angle of the wound suggested that they could be self-inflicted, and the letters carved in her left arm were oriented for her to look at. Detectives quickly realized that this whole thing was suspicious. According to Ezra herself, Alex had supposedly swapped over to the driver's seat of the car, so it would have been very difficult for him to inflict the wound. Ezra spoke with the doctor and felt that he did not believe her story, and eventually she admitted that she had carved the word in her own arm and told the hospital staff that she had self-harmed in the past. An investigator concluded their interview with Ezra at the hospital. Officers still at the Sipple home where Ezra had been found realized that Alex was missing. The officers contacted Alex's family, but he was nowhere to be found. At this point, an Eau Claire detective took over the investigation and noted that a significant amount of time had taken place between the time Ezra was found at the Sipple residence and the last time she was seen with Alex at his home. Concerned for his safety, a search for Alex was initiated by the city and Dunn County. The search was unsuccessful. Around 3 p.m. on March 23rd, the investigators went to Don Sipple's home to interview him a second time. As they drove, they noticed a mud-covered road leading off to the south of 430th Avenue, about a 40-acre parcel east of the Sipple home. One of the investigators returned to the dirt road and found a single set of footprints in the mud. These prints lack the ridge detail found in a shoe pattern, which indicated the person who left the prints had been walking barefoot down the road. He also observed tire tracks leading the other way, up the muddy road. Logically assuming this was the direction Ezra had come from, the detectives began to investigate the area closer. In no time at all, they located a 2003 Chevy Impala with license plates that would later confirm it as Ezra's car. The car also had multiple colorful drawings on the exterior. The driver's side rear door was standing open, and clothing could be seen lying on the ground outside. The detectives could see what appeared to be the head and upper body of a person lying partly outside the door, with blood around the car and no signs of life. It was clear the person was deceased. Once they confirmed there were no other victims on the scene, the detectives backed out of the area to preserve the crime scene and called the Dunn County Sheriff's Office to complete the investigation. The initial detectives and responding Dunn County deputies were puzzled by what they had just discovered. One fact was crystal clear to them. Alex Woodworth was no longer missing. He had been found, and he had been found dead. And it looked like Ezra knew more about this than she was letting on. The following day, on March 24th, Alex's body was taken to the Ramsey County Medical Examiner's Office for an autopsy evaluation. The examination revealed that Alex had suffered from 16 stab wounds to his neck, head, back, and stomach. A scarf was also found around Alex's neck, in an apparent attempt to stop his bleeding. While Alex's body was being examined, investigators interviewed Ezra once again about what happened. Ezra told detectives that she had driven to Alex's house to return some things to him, and to pick up some of her belongings that were left there. She said the two decided to have a serious talk and decided it would be best to talk in a public space. Ezra drove away with Alex in the passenger seat. Ezra said that she started to become very anxious while driving, and Alex offered to continue driving as she attempted to calm herself in the passenger seat. Ezra claimed they ended up on a dirt road on 430th Avenue in Springbrook in Dunn County, where they got stuck in the mud. She alleged that Alex attacked her in the vehicle and then carved the word boy into her arm. Yes, you heard that right. Contradicting what she had already confessed to the doctor, she was now trying to claim once more that the word had been carved by Alex rather than self-inflicted. Ezra said that she had betrayed Alex by ending their relationship to be with Jason, and Alex attempted to rape her with a knife in the back seat of the car. She said he cut her clothes off with a knife, but Ezra then kneed him in the groin. Grabbing the blade side of the knife, she said she was able to take the blade from Alex and stabbed him anywhere and everywhere. Ezra believed that she stabbed Alex in the genitalia area by his leg, the stomach, neck, back by the ribs, and side of his head. She later once again admitted that she had been the one who carved the word boy into her arm, and that she had done so after she stabbed Alex. But where had the knife come from? Surely Ezra would have seen Alex taking the knife from the house if she had left with him. Well, it turns out the knife had already been in Ezra's car. She told investigators that she had been working with her father, and he had put the knife in her car for safety. Apparently, her father said the knife could be used to break glass or to cut a seatbelt in case of a road accident. She added that her father also thought she should be prepared for anything if she encountered a situation where she was in danger and needed to do anything to get away. Detectives finished their investigation and found that Ezra was the only suspect in Alex's death. She was arrested on March 28, 2018, and was held at the Dunn County Jail on the charge of first-degree intentional homicide. District Attorney Andrea Nodolf asked that Ezra's bond be set to $750,000, an amount that Ezra's defense attorney called ridiculous due to what he argued was a lack of evidence against his client, as well as the fact that Ezra had no prior record. Ezra's defense attorney asked instead that she be released on a co-signature bond with her mother. Judge Rod Smeltzer noted that there had been an extensive investigation and found probable cause that Ezra had committed the crime. He decided to set the cash bond at $250,000, with the condition that she not leave either Dunn or Chippewa counties. In a preliminary hearing on April 25, 2018, Judge James Peterson found probable cause that Ezra committed first-degree intentional homicide using a dangerous weapon. He ordered that she remain in custody until a trial could be conducted. Judge Peterson stated that based on Ezra's mental state and statements that she made during her initial court appearance on April 6, 2018, he had questions about whether she was competent to stand trial. The judge ordered that Ezra undergo a competency evaluation by the Wisconsin Forensic Unit. According to the evaluation report from clinical psychologist Donna Minter, a consultant with the Wisconsin Forensic Unit, Ezra was mentally fit to stand trial on charges of first-degree intentional homicide and use of a deadly weapon. The competency hearing was held on Tuesday, May 22, 2018, at which point Judge Peterson agreed with Minter's findings and stated the trial would proceed. When she was questioned by the judge, Ezra confirmed that she felt mentally capable of understanding the proceedings and was able to work with her attorney on her defense. The judge then sealed the competency evaluation report from public access. Ezra's defense attorney ended the hearing by stating, "She pleads not guilty for today." In a letter to Judge Peterson on October 31, 2018, Ezra's defense attorney stated that she wanted to change her plea from not guilty to not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. This change in plea occurred even though Ezra had already passed one mental health evaluation and declared her understanding of the proceedings. Ezra eventually withdrew this plea in a court hearing on February 6, 2019. Ezra's defense attorney stated that he expected her to testify at her trial, which began on October 14, 2019, in Dunn County courts. Prosecutors alleged that Ezra was sexually involved with 3 men at the same time in February 2018: Jason, Alex, and John. They believed Ezra was struggling with guilt and regret in connection with these affairs, was troubled by her own uncertainty regarding her gender identity, and on top of that, was the stress of a move from Eau Claire to Stanley. Ezra's defense attorney stated, Ezra's sexual history and prior sexual assaults are not relevant to whether she intended to kill Alex or, if she did, whether she was acting in self-defense. Assistant Attorney General Richard Dufour and Dunn County District Attorney Andrea Nodolf stated that Ezra intentionally lured Alex to Dunn County to murder him, to rid herself of guilt and regret surrounding her relationship situation. Ezra's defense attorney Aaron Nelson and Deja Vishny countered this claim, saying that Alex took violent and aggressive acts against Ezra in the backseat of a vehicle stuck in the mud in a secluded rural area. The issue of self-defense was involved. Ezra's defense team wanted over 100 pages of Alex's journals and writings allowed into evidence. The journals had many references to cannibalism and some to death and suicide, according to court documents. Ezra's defense team argued that she knew the contents of the journals, which prompted her to fight back when he attacked her. However, prosecutors claimed that these references were simply metaphors. He was a philosophy student that intended to teach philosophy someday, and all three of those subjects are laden with the kinds of moral implications often discussed in philosophy. Ezra testified that she stabbed Alex because I was afraid he was going to kill me.
I'm trying to make my way to the open door. Alex grabs me by the throat, and I'm pressed, my body and my head is pressed against the driver's side back of the seat. At this point is that I could feel the knife start to graze and cut into my skin. I'm afraid he's going to kill me because he has a knife, and I'm afraid that he's going to take whatever he wants and he's just going to finish this.
Well, you decided to name the groin. Did you actually do it?
Yes.
What happens then?
He reacts and he drops the knife at that point.
When he drops the knife, what do?
Instantly, I grab the knife. This is when I began to defend myself and stab Alex.
Are you trying to kill him?
No.
What are you trying to do?
I just want to get away. I need to get out of the car. I need to get away as fast as I could.
She testified that she went to a nearby house for help, but did not mention that she had stabbed Alex and that he was in the car. She also did not tell the responding officers and emergency personnel about stabbing Alex. All of this was able to be confirmed by those she spoke to following the assault. A forensic scientist called to testify stated that Alex had more than likely lived up to 30 minutes after being stabbed, since none of his wounds were immediately life-threatening or to the spinal cord. This witness pointed out that most of the blood found at the crime scene was outside of the car, suggesting that Alex was able to crawl into the back seat after being attacked. The scarf around his neck used as a tourniquet was also mentioned. If Ezra had mentioned her alleged attacker and had police and medical aid dispatched to his location, Alex may have lived to tell his side of the story. On November 1, 2019, after jury deliberation lasting only 3 hours and 17 minutes, Ezra was found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide in the death of Alex.
Mr. McCandless, please rise. We, the jury, find the defendant, Ezra J. McCandless, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in the information. And the answer to the special verdict question is yes. Use a dangerous weapon. And you may be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, is this your verdict? All right, I'm going to do what's called polling the jury, and I'm going to ask each of you if this is your verdict. And I'm going to ask you by your juror number.
Then, 3 months later, on Friday, February 7th, 2020, Ezra was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility to petition for extended supervision after 50 years.
In the courts, and Alex's family, but most of all, Alex's parents. I want to say how sorry I am that they have lost their son. But sorry doesn't cut it in my mind. That word is not enough and never will be enough for this loss. And I recognize that. I don't think I could ever find words that will be enough to express this, especially to them. The pain they feel is unimaginable. I want to express how sorry I am for this loss, because it is such a great loss. I recognize and completely acknowledge this pain, and I'm so sorry. I loved Alex very much, and I also feel a great loss.
So, the court believes, and here's what the court is going to do for the reasons that I've stated. I am going to sentence Ms. McCandless to life in prison in the Wisconsin prison system, and I'm going to set the date that she would be eligible for petitioning the court for extended supervision at 50 years. It's a long time, but the way I reason this, that Ms. McCandless, if she does what she's supposed to do, follows the rules, that she at least has some light at the end of a very long tunnel. It's a long time. I won't be around. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be gone, like dead at that point. But I think, I've thought about that for a number of different reasons. I think that way that Alex's parents, I don't know exactly how old they are, or how long they have yet to live, but that spares them to have to see the day when Ms. McCandless may petition to be released and perhaps have to go through some hearings. It's a long time down the road and does not unduly depreciate the seriousness of this offense in the court's opinion. And if this was a death penalty state, there would be no opportunity ever for that. But this is an intentional homicide, and it is that serious in this court's opinion. I think people expect, if maybe not an entire natural life, but at least if 50 years is a point where I think most people can agree that would not unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense, and she would most likely not be a risk to the public after a very lengthy period such as that.
In December 2022, Ezra's attorney filed a motion to vacate the conviction and order a new trial. The nearly 80-page motion cites ineffective assistance of counsel, that the jury was able to consider inadmissible and inflammatory character evidence, that the jury got incomplete and incorrect instructions about how to consider psychological evidence, and that the jury was exposed to the state's improper closing arguments. The motion cites seeking a new trial in the interest of justice, saying the trial suffered from numerous errors. The request was denied in November 2023. Ezra has, at the time of this writing, only served 4 out of the 50 years she needs to be in prison before the possibility of extended supervision is even considered. Greed and selfish desires can make a person do inexplicable things. Wanting more and more without thinking of how others are affected can be dangerous. Those with the insatiable appetite for more often find themselves down a path of deceit, betrayal, and ultimately aggression. Greed is a ravenous hunger that, if left unchecked, can ruin empathy, compassion, and moral values. Ezra McCandless attempted to give herself what she desired, affection and sexual attention from men. The hunger she felt to have more and more led her to do the unthinkable, to take another person's life. Ezra wanted to have her cake and eat it too, but quickly realized that she was not able to have everything she wanted. As she spends her day at the Taycheedah Correctional Institute in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, Ezra may be left with the memories of feeling in control and satisfied, but faces a future full of pure emptiness and loneliness, which is no more than she deserves, if you ask me. Okay, listeners, thank you for joining me in this episode as we file away another true crime case. This episode was researched and written by Rachael Spillers. She can be contacted at rachaelspillersresearch@gmail.com and is a proud graduate of the True Crime Podcast Training Program. Editing and production assistance by Jesse Hawke of the Inky Pawprint. Audio engineering produced by the best in the business, Neeks at We Talk of Dreams. Check him out on Twitter at We Talk of Dreams or at theinkypawprint.com.